In the hospital conference room, when Jane saw David for the first time, she immediately began crying. "My son," she whispered. "You have my eyes." Samuel approached cautiously, studying David's face. "You look like Jane's father." He had the same gentle expression. Jane pulled David into a fierce embrace. "My baby boy. My Daniel." For the first time in 25 years, the Adebayo family was complete. "I always wondered why I loved working with machines," David said through his tears. "Now I know I inherited it from you, Papa." Samuel smiled at being called Papa for the first time. "Your grandfather was also a mechanic. It's in your blood." That evening in Williams' Robert mansion, David placed the DNA results on the coffee table in front of his adoptive parents, confronting Robert. "I know the truth about my birth," he said simply. Robert's face went ashen while Margaret looked confused. "David," Robert started, "I can explain. You stole me from my real parents," David said, his voice steady but hurt. "You let them think their son was dead for 25 years. When David explained everything to Margaret, including that their biological daughter had died, Margaret stared at her husband in horror. 25 years of lies, Robert," she whispered. "How could you steal another woman's child?" "I did it for our family," Robert shouted desperately. The Williams name needed an heir. The Williams name needed honesty, Margaret replied, standing abruptly. David watched his adoptive parents' marriage crumble before his eyes. Justice served in the courtroom 6 months later. The baby-swapping scandal made national headlines. Victoria faced criminal charges while Chief Robert was arrested for conspiracy and bribery. During her testimony, Victoria broke down completely. "I destroyed innocent lives for money," she sobbed. "I let grieving parents mourn a living child. I deserve whatever punishment this court gives me." The judge sentenced Victoria to 5 years in prison and ordered substantial compensation to the Adebayo family. Robert received 3 years and was ordered to pay even larger damages. News report. The baby swap that shocked Abeokuta has exposed corruption in healthcare and sparked national debate about medical ethics. David's new apartment, 1 year later. David had moved out of the Williams mansion but maintained a relationship with Margaret, who had filed for divorce from Robert. "I don't blame you for what Robert did," David told Margaret during one of her visits. "You were deceived just as much as the Adebayos." Margaret had aged considerably since learning the truth. "I keep thinking about Jane, how she must have suffered all these years." David arranged for Margaret and Jane to meet. The encounter was deeply moving. "I'm so sorry," Margaret said to Jane, taking her hands. "I didn't know. If I had known, I would have brought him back to you immediately." Jane studied Margaret's face and saw genuine remorse. "You loved our son when we couldn't. For that, I'm grateful." The two women cried together, united in their love for David despite the deception that had separated them. The wedding ceremony. 2 years later, David married Sarah Adeyemi, a local teacher who had fallen in love with his gentle nature and commitment to family. The wedding brought together both sides of David's life. Margaret sat in the front row next to Jane and Samuel, all three parents united in their love for David. During the ceremony, the priest spoke about truth and forgiveness. "David and Sarah, your marriage begins with a foundation of truth that was hard-won. May you always remember that love built on honesty is stronger than any lie." Samuel gave a toast that brought everyone to tears. "Today, my son marries the woman he loves. 25 years ago, we thought we had lost him forever. But love and truth have brought our family back together. Daniel, David, you are our miracle." 3 years later, David and Sarah welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Grace Adebayo Williams, honoring both sides of David's family. When Jane held her granddaughter for the first time, she wept with joy. "I missed your first breath," Jane whispered to David, "but I won't miss hers." Samuel carved a beautiful wooden cradle for baby Grace. "This cradle will pass from generation to generation," he told David. "No more secrets, no more lies." Margaret also embraced her role as grandmother, establishing a trust fund for Grace's education. "I may not be her biological grandmother," Margaret said, "but I loved her father as my own son. That makes her my granddaughter in my heart." After 5 years in prison, Victoria's first stop was Samuel's garage. When Samuel saw her, his face initially hardened, then softened as he noticed how much she had aged and suffered. "Samuel," Victoria said quietly from the doorway. Victoria, Samuel replied simply. I know I can never undo what I did, Victoria said. But I want you to know that not a day passed in prison without me thinking about the pain I caused your family. Samuel was quiet for a long moment. Victoria, what you did was unforgivable. But my son taught me something about grace. He chose to forgive and build bridges instead of walls. I don't expect forgiveness, Victoria said. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Samuel nodded. I know you are. And maybe someday, that will be enough. Family gathering. The extended Adebayo family gathered for Grace's third birthday. 3 generations sat together, Samuel and Jane, David and Sarah, little Grace playing with her cousins. Margaret Williams was also present, having become an honorary member of the Adebayo family through their shared love for David. As David watched his daughter play, he reflected on the journey that had brought them all together. David's voiceover. They say the truth will set you free, but they don't tell you it will first tear your world apart. I learned that families are not always defined by blood, but by love, honesty, and the courage to do what's right, even when it's hard. The end.